that, thank you, Tamara. So I know that we should have a lot of folks from the luxury committee on today to talk a bit more about that. And yet we reran the numbers so that we could break down our luxury markets, because they've probably, that's been the biggest change I've seen in our markets, is that we now have to kind of account for those increments, not just the plus $1 million anymore. It's like, okay, well, what's happening in each price class category? So we got that today. And then, yeah, well, thanks for everyone for jumping on. And I know that we're gonna have more people coming on as we go, but as we like to do to kind of get it kicked off, tell me something good. What's going on good in your world? What you got cooking? You got a win or an aha from the week that you'd like to share? What's going on in your world? You can either press space bar to unmute, or you can click the little unmute in the left-hand corner. Please open up and share. What have you got cracking this last week?
I'll go.
Yes, thank you, Alexis. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Alexis. I just got hired by Tom Wagner. I'm his full-time admin assistant. Yeah, so I just joined last week. I'm really excited and doing as many trainings as I can. And I'm also doing my course to get licensed soon. So hi, everybody.
Cool. Welcome. That's awesome. So you're an operations person?
I'm his right-hand person right now. It's just me and him. So
Nice.
yes.
Great. That's awesome. Cool. Well, thanks for being here. Welcome. These masterminds are, I mean, I think of them as kind of the most important thing that I dive into each month. We will have Gary back next month. He's out traveling right now. And so I know I've been, here at the helm of the monthly mastermind in the interim, but he'll be back. I'll be here as well still. And yet, thanks for Alexis for coming in, and thanks for joining. Welcome to the family. I mean, it truly is here at KW. Cool. What else? What else you got good in your world? What's cooking?
I'll go.
Yes, Jessica.
I finally got one of my buyers I've been working with for about a month now under contract after writing 5 offers. Yes.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah. Determination.
Yeah, that's great. For sure. Great job. I think it was Alton who mentioned last month, it was like 3 is like, after 3, they may or may not stay in the game after 3 offers. Losing out, it's like that's really been like the average. And we've got a few buyers in our pipeline right now that are they're losing. And so what did you do? How did you get them finally under contract?
At first we were writing offers with a sale contingency of their home, and we got to a place in their contract, of their listing contract, where they felt comfortable enough to write an offer without that, and just using some hard money down and persistence.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great job. Yeah, I got a client in that same capacity right now, where it's like, he's kind of like, as we're getting closer to, clearing contingencies, then he's like, okay, now I'll put up some money knowing that it's got a better chance. Awesome. Cool. Thanks for sharing. So please, I encourage you to, if you are in a place to take yourself off of mute, to do so and share, or turn your camera on if you're in a spot that makes sense. The more participation, the better, we all learn and grow together. So what else have you got? What else is new in your world? Something good or an aha you've had the last 30 days since our last meeting?
Something good, I will call out Margot Scott, who has been teaching Ignite classes for us. And we are so appreciative, and she's been doing a great job. So thank you, Margot.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Awesome. Margot, what market center are you in?
Tampa Properties.
Okay. That's great. It's, Gary says, or the path to mastery, the final step is to teach it. And then I heard today, coach to it, right? There's actually another final step, apparently, be coach around it. Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Oh, let me make sure that I can still hear everyone. Turn my Bluetooth off. Okay, what else? What else you have in your world? Tell me something good or an aha you've had the last 30 days or gratitude, something you want to share. What's new for you?
I think I'll share.
Thanks, Kurt.
So last year, the mortgage business was the largest in the history of mortgages. So even after that, after all the refinances have kind of dwindled away, we're still up 15% year over year from last year. So that's awesome that you guys are taking the buyers out and getting them under contract. So thank you very much. I'm gratitude towards you.
That's awesome, Kurt. You know, I've heard that over and over again, that this pent up demand is not going anywhere.
I don't see it. You know, I heard something on the news the other day that they were going to try and make Orlando and Tampa a megatropolis. And so if that happens, then you're going to see all that land between Tampa and Orlando coming together. And that's just going to open up more opportunities for everybody.
Cool. Maybe we'll get that high-speed bullet train they've been talking about. That's cool. A megatropolis. I mean, geez. That's crazy. Where'd you hear that, Kurt? Just out of curiosity.
It was on the news. It was on the news. Let's see. That would have been Wednesday night.
Okay. I guess I don't watch the news, so maybe I'm out of the
Fox
loop on that
13.
one. Okay, cool. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, man. That would be an interesting impactor to our world. Call it the Silicon Swamp or something like that. Get all that people moving in here, tech companies and whatnot. What else? What else you got that's great in your world? Thanks for sharing that, Kurt. What else you got that's new in your world? Aha, something you've heard in the last 30 days. Hey, Phil.
Hey, sorry, I'm not on camera there.
It's all good.
So in the last month, this is connected to where you're going in this call. I'm curious to see how your numbers tie into this, but as a team, we've done a VA buyer, an FHA buyer, and even a buyer who was getting basically the help with closing costs. They had a closing cost support, and we put them all under contract, which 2 months ago I would have laughed at any one of those, trying to do it. And yet in this past month, we did it. So market's changing a little bit, grit's changing, of the agents. They're they're not holding back. We're throwing punches instead of trying to be nice. And better buyer consultations too. The buyers who are still out there fighting they're ready to go.
Phil, thanks for sharing that, Phil. It's interesting. We've got our pending board in our office is to max capacity right now. Like we're starting to write pendings onto like just a flip chart to track them. Which means we just got to get them to the closing table. That would be great to take them off that board, close them out. And yet, it's interesting. I think, Phil, what you're going to find, we're going to go over the numbers here in a little bit. The markets are actually tightening.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And so, we'll go over the numbers in a minute. And here's what I think, and when I hear you saying, and maybe you can confirm this, or maybe I'm just, it's all perception and that's my reality, is that I think we're getting better at our jobs.
I would agree.
I think we're getting better at like navigating the conversation, educating the clients, and then like presenting the offers. I think we're just getting better at doing it. Because I don't know. I'm not really seeing the markets like softening. Like at first I like, oh, okay. I did see a little softening a couple months ago, but we had all three counties inventory levels are down and sales volume is up, especially Hillsborough County had a huge month over month increase in sales volume. It just basically it got more tight in September. Yeah. And maybe now that we're in October, maybe October, like a flip switched and we won't know until we get to November if this is like October or whatever, because the fourth quarter, who knows? And yet I think we're just getting better. I don't know. What are you guys what are you finding? We're just getting better at doing this because we've been like against the ropes so much. What are you feeling out there?
We've had a lot of practice.
Oh man, have we?
We've had a lot of practice at getting better at on both ends. Trying to negotiate on the part of our client and begging the list agent, if you're a buyer, as well as softening the blow for our buyers of, oh, we missed that one, but there'll be another one. You know, the scripts are getting better on both ends of the transaction.
Yeah, Margot, thanks for sharing that. I would agree with that. Anyone else seeing anything? And like, tell me about what you're hearing from co-op agents right now. Are you seeing, what are you seeing and from other people's properties, other listings, or the co-ops that are sending you? Has the tone changed? Have they gotten sharper with what they're submitting? Like, what are you seeing? I mean, I was like, oh, co-op agents, huh? Ugh, don't want to talk about them. I guess part of it, I mean, I'm thinking about it from both the buy side and the listing side, because I got 2 agents who do all our buyers on the team. And yet, I think that the listing co-op agents have been more, I don't know, it seems like we're building rapport faster with these agents than we were before. Like maybe I don't know. Is anyone else seeing that? No, everyone's like, Jake, you're crazy.
Like,
Well, from the listing side, well, go ahead, Kurt.
I was going to say, I think the communication has improved between KW and the co-op agents to make these deals happen. Because let's face it, if there's no communication, there's no deal. True. Yeah. I mean, on the listing side, we're definitely getting a lot of agents that are, they're still lobbying for their clients, but I feel like we're getting better written offers than we were before, which is so interesting because I don't know if anyone went to the contract changes that Lisa Spain had on. If you haven't, I mean, November, like the new FAR bar is going to be, it's wildly different than the one we have right now. There's a lot of big changes that are, I think, a response to what's been happening in the market, which has been interesting. Biggest one being appraisal contingencies, I think, written back into the contract, which is interesting because it took me a long time to educate co-op agents that their clients don't have an appraisal contingency. Just because they have a loan commitment contingency doesn't mean they have an appraisal contingency. So that was a big one. Cool. What else? What have you heard? What classes have you taken? What have you seen out there? Take one more aha from the past 30 days, or what have you taken that really have shaped your world? Not everyone at once. Brian, I thought you were unmuting. You were not unmuting, Brian?
I'll go.
Okay, Jessica.
Yesterday, I actually took the plan for my business class, the first start of it. And it was definitely a big aha for me. It was pretty much exactly what I was looking for as far as foundation and models. And I'm looking forward to the next 2 classes. It definitely motivated me and gave me a lot of great ideas for implementing this year into my business. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Great.
Business planning clinic. That's our mode right now. We are in business planning mode on my team for sure. That's October for us, which is cool. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Jessica. Brian, you were going to say something? You're muted.
Right, it shows that you're unmuted, but
Yeah, you
there
are.
you go.
What were you going to say, Tamara?
I was going to say, it showed on our end you were unmuted, but maybe something with your microphone, but we can hear you now.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what I was going to say, actually. I was just commenting on something someone else said. But I mean, if I'm really thinking about it, I mean, there's, like coming from that leadership class today, I just think there's so much opportunity with KW and with, the ability to, really, like I said today, it's not just about selling real estate. It's just being around the right people to change your mindset so that you can accomplish the goals that you have. and if you're continually surrounding yourself with these right people, things just fall into place, and as you just continue to grow. And so going back to your how are the co-op and everything and things changing with the market, is that I think what you're saying earlier, which I hopped on late, is about how we're getting better. And so I don't know that things are changing as much as I'm changing, right? And so I don't necessarily can I say what is exactly changing about the other person, because I've changed so much. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing it. Maybe I'm kind of not saying what I'm trying to say.
No, I think you're right in grain for sure, Brian. I mean, we're having to set the tone for these conversations when we're talking to co-op agents for sure.
Yeah.
And if we've risen to the level of professionalism that it's going to do to get the job done, I mean, that's how we're able to get through sale of buyer property contingencies and, seller contributions, whatever those are anymore. Or be able to have our buyers get, slugged a few times to then still get back in the market and go write another offer. Like Gary says, during the shift, it's a skills-based business, and it truly is a skills-based business. And, the cream is going to rise to the top. So do they say.
Yeah, and I would say too that if you're always doing the right thing, you can expect the right thing to happen, within the deal as well too. You could just expect it because you're used to doing it.
That resonated hard with me today. I had a buyer that, she was loose with the information that she gave to her lender, which caused her to get a denial at the closing table.
Ooh.
Loose, yeah. And so how do you?
That hurts you.
Well, how do so I got to tell myself, do the right thing. Always do the right thing always. And it's like, okay, just got to get my ego out of the way. Like, of course, I had, a few things that I was thinking that, I kept to myself, and she was within
It was
the
at
terms
the
of the
closing
contract.
table. It was at the closing table. It's got to be before, right?
No, pretty much
What?
wasn't.
You got all the way to the closing table and it didn't fund?
Yeah. If a new question I'm asking lenders, is the buyer scheduled to
Self-employed.
purchase another house right now besides the one that they're going under contract on? They got another one in there they're buying? Yeah? No? Okay. Debt to income ratios, people. Yeah. So they pulled the credit at closing, and then there was a check for $15,000 to a new home builder in there. Oops. Yeah, I know, right? And then, okay, well, I guess I can stay on my soapbox a minute on that. Is that keeping your lender informed to be able to say you did everything that you could do to get your loan? Maybe yes, maybe no. I mean, she got the denial within the time frame, so she could cancel because she got the denial. Oh, brutal. Yeah, it happens, right?
Were you the
It's happened
listing
to
agent on
me.
that or the buyer's agent?
You'll love this one.
You're both.
Transaction
both
broker,
sides.
baby. Oh, yeah, no, it was, and so then it's like, okay, how do you recover from that? Gary says, don't be tied to the financial outcome of one single transaction, or, how do you do the right thing in there? Like, what's the right thing to do? And, it's, things could get heated. So someone else had a thought or question or comment in that?
I did. It just happened to me. I was the listing agent, and the buyer didn't disclose a foreclosure that happened several years ago. They did their own Googling to see how long it was on their record. The lender didn't see it for 3 weeks until the final loan approval. So a week before closing, they got denied. They didn't tell their agent, they didn't tell their lender, they didn't tell anybody about this little detail of a foreclosure.
I know, just a little detail.
Yeah,
Just a little
it's a
bit.
little teeny detail.
Detail. By the way, I'm buying another house. I was going to use them both.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, so it's, I'm thanks Van Dyke for that list of questions I ask every lender. I added another one to that, right? Or let's say, have you had it's, and you never know, right? So when you're meeting with these sellers, going over a dozen offers, what are the skeletons in the closet that we can flush out? in
She had
advance.
18 offers too, and she really connected and wanted this family, and I was so bummed.
I know, and how do you go to like,
Well, so Jake, can I jump in here for just a second as a lender?
please?
So I want to address what you were talking about as far as, someone else going and purchasing another home. Most lenders, they have what they call a CMS, which is a credit monitoring system. So if they go and pull credit somewhere else, it's going to trigger the lender to let them know what's going on and who they're trying to pull credit with, which kind of enables us to make sure there's no other unreported debt that's going on.
So
So
hang on, let me stop there for a second. What's the name of that system?
It's called a CMS, credit monitoring system. So if I have a buyer that's debt to income ratio is over 40%, that's automatically on. I mean, I don't do that. That comes from our back office. So it cuts back on foreclosures and, but make sure your buyers are aware of that. Most lenders will have that.
So let me ask a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Now, in this scenario, the buyer actually went under contract prior to going under contract on the home that we had. And so the credit, it was like the lender pulled the credit in like August early. They then went under contract with the new home like mid-August. And then so I had approval letter from early August. They went under contract on the new build. And then they went under contract with us in like early September. And then the lender was like, oh, we pulled credit again. And then we saw the check. They had to explain the large deposit. And that's when they're like, oh, it's the other house I'm buying. I don't know if CMS would have caught that.
So, yeah, I mean, if the credit was pulled prior, but the credit's only good for 60 days. So in that situation,
It was fast. It was within the time
lender
frame.
had to re-pull credit, and that's why it's only good for the 60 days.
Yep. All right. Well, live and
So,
learn, right? That's what we're here for.
I always tell the buyers, business as usual. Don't go and buy cars. Don't go and buy furniture. Don't go
Another
and buy
house.
anything unless you plan on living in that Ferrari, unless you plan on living on the couch.
Yeah.
If you want to buy a house, then, don't make any big purchases and keep your money in your pocket. So
Jake?
the other thing that I wanted to comment on was Michelle's, when you tell me about that. You said there was a foreclosure that happened 4 years ago.
So I was the listing agent, and the buyer had a foreclosure about 4 years ago, but they were FHA doing their own research online, and the program they were doing through the FHA was that after 3 years, they could still buy their house, but something with when the bank transferred the deed,
Yeah, it goes
the
by.
bank waited. They were going off the date that they gave the house back to the bank. And what I found out when it fell apart, when I tried to save it through Van Dyke, was that, yes, it was 3 years when they gave it over, but it was like 3.8 years or 2.8 years or whatever when the bank did it. So they need another 6 or 7 months before they can buy a house. But the point is, they didn't tell their realtor, they didn't tell their lender. When I called the lender to make sure they were legit before we chose them, they told me time and time again, these are solid buyers.
Slam
They've already
dunk.
been pre-approved. They're good. And I kept checking up. It wasn't until week 3 that it fell apart.
Wow.
I can't imagine
Wow.
being a buyer and not disclosing that information.
Well, for one thing, it should show on the credit report. And, as far as when every lender is going to go by when the title changed, when they actually sold the house, not when the bank took it over. The satisfaction happens when there's a change of title.
Right. I
So,
had
but
never
it should
worked
show on
with
the credit
this
report as far as a foreclosure. So I'm surprised that lender didn't catch that.
Everybody
Hopefully that
is.
was a Van Dyke lender.
It wasn't a Van Dyke, I must
Okay,
say.
good.
It was somebody
Well,
else. When it
good.
fell apart a week before, I tried to salvage it. And they are the ones who gave me all of the information. And by the way, I was doing this for the buyer's agent because she called me freaking out, like, I don't know what they're talking about. And da, da, da. She was very inexperienced. So I took the ball and tried to get to the bottom of it and tried to save it. And it wasn't salvageable.
Yeah. I mean, I hear you. I did the same thing. I was like, who else can we bring on the loan? Like, what else, what other options? You know, you win and you celebrate, or you fail and you learn, right? No
Good
doubt.
thing is I put it back on the market. We were under contract within a day anyway, but my seller was very nervous.
I bet. Jan, you had something?
Hi there, Jake.
Hey.
Going back to what you said about not asking some follow-up questions to the buyer. I had a buyer who we were going to write a contract, found the perfect house and 15,000 earnest money. And they said, and I talked about closing date, you know, what about closing, you know, quick? Well, can we write a 90-day contract? And I said, not so much today. And I said, can I ask why you need the wait? They said, well, for the earnest money. I said, you said your earnest money was in your savings account. Well, yeah, at the end of 90 days, it'll be. So now I ask, where's your earnest money come from? Is it already there?
Yeah, no. And, you know, I've learned also, like, is that earnest money, or is the funds in the United States? Or are they?
Good one.
You know, are they here? Are they stateside? If they're not stateside, it could be a long wait to get them there, depending on how much money it is. That's for sure. Especially when it comes to luxury purchases, and we got folks from out of the country and big money coming in from out of the country. Cool. What else? Anything else you want to share before we get rolled? We're gonna roll right into numbers today, because I think it's a great day for that, and I'm excited about them to share them with you. What else you got? This has definitely been some good learning today so far. Anything else you've heard? One thing I could share that I was listening to, I mean, I've been, and again, I get a monthly newsletter from my my financial planner and or someone I have investments with, and really talking about how the economy is doing very well. Very strong numbers coming out of the economy right now. I wrote in my notes as I was listening to what they were saying that COVID, the COVID scenario was, where am I at here? We had a decrease of 31% on GDP, which is the highest, the biggest dip ever in the history of GDP drop when COVID hit. I mean, even in 2008, it was only an 8% GDP drop, which is still, whatever it is, but we've fully recovered from that as an economy as a whole. And so, I'm hoping that that's going to mean things will start stabilizing. I mean, assuming we can get, supply chains back. I don't know. That's really the thing I'm seeing out there in the macroeconomic climate, as far as what people are doing and how they're perceiving things, is that, we're going from pandemic to endemic terms. I don't know, what anyone else seeing stuff out there in the other economies that, or sectors that they want to bring up before we jump into the actual market numbers for the three counties? Anything else you've been hearing out there? Kurt, how are interest rates? Still holding good?
Yeah, they've actually ticked up a little bit. And so, if you hear rates going down right now, those are the federal rates. It has nothing to do with the mortgage rates. So those mortgage rates right now are ticking up. We're at about 3.25, 3 1/8, 3 1/4, depending on what type of loan, but they are going up.
Any other projections of things coming down the pipe in that sector?
I think that we're going to continue to see a steady rise, and maybe towards the beginning of 2022, maybe see them come down a little bit and then go back up.
Okay. Good to know.
Can I put that in perspective for newer people?
Yeah.
My first contract was 13%. I do not get scared at 3 1/8 or 3 1/4.
No.
Where I'm going to get scared is if they hit 13 and a quarter, because I've never sold in a 13 and a quarter% interest rate market. We have lots of room, Kurt. We have lots of room.
Agreed.
Ain't that the
Um,
truth?
So I will tell you this, in our lifetime, in my lifetime, I'll probably see nothing over 5%. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, interesting, because I think even in 08, what was it, 7% interest rates? I think is where we were, which that's why affordability was so low.
Yeah,
I think we were
I
at-
want to say, and oh my goodness, man, it's been so long ago. Yeah, it was 7 and a quarter, 7.5, somewhere in there.
Yeah, so I mean, even when we have this blazing hot seller's market, which we're going to look at the numbers in a minute, affordability is still extremely high. And demand, the pent-up demand is extremely high. I mean, and so I don't see, I mean, we're going to see like leveling, but I don't really, I mean, it's going to remain a sprinting market. I mean, that's people like, how's the market? Like I wake up every morning and I start sprinting, and that's
Well,
kind of that's what we're doing right now.
Here's what some information you could use when you're counseling your buyers. And, you know, obviously no one has that crystal ball to determine where the interest rates are going to go. But if your interest rates go up 1%, your buying power reduces by 10%. So you want to make sure when you're talking to your buyers and they're saying, well, we're just going to wait. Well, you know, you may want to give them that information so they can make an informed decision. Is it really worth waiting? Because, you know, what are they predicting? The rest of through Q4, they're looking at a 12% increase in appreciation, and then another 24 next year. So, I mean, again, and we have tools that can help you with that can show you what the cost of waiting would be. So if you have
just
buyers
put
out
that in. There's another thing I'll add to that, Kurt, is not only does your purchase power decrease by 10%, your mortgage payment increases by 10%. So your payment goes up for the same house.
Right.
And so I bought a house in December. What's the second home market at right now?
as far as what down payment and
Rate?
interest rate?
No, interest rate.
Same. It's basically now, when you say second home investment property, two different things. The second home you can get with 10% down and basically the same rate.
3.1.
Yeah.
Yep.
Depending on credit, obviously.
Well, I mean,
But-
I bought my house. I bought a second home in December for 2.5% down,
Wow.
2.5%
Wow.
interest.
2.5%
that was like the last one.
down?
No, 10% down, 2.5% interest. But I mean, if I would have waited, that same house would have been 25, 30% more expensive. And I would have been, my mortgage payment would have been 10% more. Plus it would have been based on the new price for the same exact house.
Right.
I wouldn't have been able to afford it. It would have been out of my budget.
So,
You know,
there's this isn't one of our loans, but it's a broker loan that we'd be using. But for investment properties, you can actually get an investment property, no job, no income, 700 credit score, 25% down. No questions asked. So if you have investors out there,
so no documentation needed.
the only thing we need is assets. So
And a 700 credit score.
no job, no income, 700 credit score, 25% down. Now the rates are going to be, as Jen would say, that it's still not bad, but your rates are probably going to be around 5.25, 5.5. But if you have an investor that maybe has over 10% or 10 properties that are being financed, you can't go Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac on that. So this is a way of getting them into a home, and for an investor to buy a home without having to show income or job or anything else.
Interesting. Brian, what were you gonna say?
Well, I was going to say, just going back to the supply chain, there's in the economy, there's a podcast this morning, then the Daily, it was based on the supply chain. And one of the things that they talked about, which I found so fascinating, which never even occurred to me, is during the pandemic, when they were shipping all the PPE out of China, normally all the stuff comes out of China and goes to the more well-to-do countries like, you know, Europe and in North America and what have you. Well, they were shipping PPE out to everywhere, all over the world. So there's these containers that are stuck in West Africa and South Africa and Latin America, you know, and nothing was coming back in them, and they weren't shipping them back. So that's another reason we just have like all these containers spread out throughout the world that are just aren't being shipped back because no one's shipping anything, you know, from those countries. It's just fascinating.
Buy your Christmas presents now because supply chain, don't wait. Yeah, no, I've heard that supply chain issues as well. And I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting to see how that's going to shake out. Cool. All right. Y'all ready to jump into the market numbers? I am. I was excited. So I did something special this month is I had my intern, Drew, I'm sharing my screen here. He ran the numbers and he also pulled in the luxury numbers as well. So we're going to talk a little bit more about luxury today because there's been a lot of talk. I mean, there's a lot going on in the luxury market as well. So I've got my screen shared. Everyone can see what I've got here in front of me. Pinellas County graph sheet. Give me a head shake. Yeah, you can see that. Tamara, can you put this in the chat, the download for folks in case they don't have it? If anyone doesn't have it, Tamara will put it into the chat for download. It did. I think it did go out. I'm not sure. Michelle will send it out as well, or whomever your front desk person is will send that out. So
it's also on uvaldiantraining.com. If you find this class, same link where you registered, right below that is a link to download this too, just in case somebody else asks.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm not monitoring the chat. So if someone chats something, somebody else tell me what it is they chatted. Okay. All right. So let's jump right in. So we send this out every month. You can do the math. I'll show everyone how to do the math real quick today, so you can do it on your own, but we will provide this to you. And my goal is to have it done by like the first week of each month. And the reason why I wait till after the first week of each month is because it takes some time for other realtors to get their properties uploaded that they sold, or something closes on the 31st. It's not gonna, maybe they didn't mark it sold until, you know, the 4th or 5th. So we do this like between the 7th and the 13th, we pull these numbers. What you're looking at here is gonna be all 3 counties, Pinellas, Pasco, Hillsborough. And I am going to do Manatee, Sarasota. That's my next goal, is to do this for Manatee, Sarasota County, because we're selling down there. And it's going to be the last 5 years of active inventory stacked up against the last 5 years of sales volume, so that you can start to see the trends. And the whole idea here is that to educate yourself on what's happening in these markets, jumping on this mastermind so that we can chat through like what's happening, so we can better educate our clients, our buyers and our sellers. Gary Keller says your goal is to be your clients and your database real estate economist of choice. And so this is how I become that. I'm not naturally a numbers person. I'm not like a analytical high C behavioral style, so to speak. So this helps me pretend like I'm a high C when I'm actually not. And I get to live here a little bit. All right, so let's dive into September. The inventory in September in Pinellas County went down between August and September. It went from 2,337 to 2,224. So we dropped about 100 properties or so, and we are still significant drop from last year. So if you remember, we talked last year, September, I mean, it was on the sliding scale, all heading straight on down. Way low inventories. We are still way low. So 2,224 homes on the market in September. Sales volume slightly down by about 10 homes, maybe 11 homes, both year over year, month over month. So really flat sales. Flat sales are still there's still high demand. It's still the highest demand really we've ever seen in a September ever, matching what we had last year. We just have 100 or 1,000, you know, it shows here year over year, 1,000 plus fewer homes that came on the market
That's
year over
insane.
year. Yeah. So what we do with this data is, we can see the last 5 years, and you can kind of see the trends of where our markets have been trending to kind of what they are now. I mean, it's kind of been a roller coaster ride when it comes to the trends. They were pretty consistent for, I don't know, the last 15 years, since 2012, they've been pretty consistent. And now they're starting to get a little turbulent again. And yet if we take the sales, which was 2,061 divided by the actives, it gives us an absorption rate of 93%. Someone who's been on the Market Center Mastermind, talk about what absorption rate, what does absorption rate mean for those that don't know?
Well, since I'm a numbers cruncher, I'll jump in.
Thanks, Dan.
That's how many homes were absorbed in the last month, that 30-day period. And the absorption rate divided into the number 100 gives you how many months of inventory we have. And another way of saying that I've heard you say before, Jake, which I love, is if we got not one more listing today, we'd be running out of inventory in a little over 30 days.
Yeah, Jan, thanks for that. You're right on. And absorption rate is how fast a market absorbs a product. So you can look at an absorption rate of anything, whatever the product is, you divide what's sold versus what's available. The higher that number, the faster it's moving. The closer to 100, the faster the market. And so the market as a whole is 100 divided by the 93, drop the percentage, gives you a 1.08 month supply of inventory, which puts us into a seller's market. So for those that don't know, a seller's market is the National Association of Realtors and reads a seller's market as anywhere from 0 month supply of inventory to about 4.5, 5-ish months of supply of inventory. An even market or split market would be like 4.5 to 6.5 or 7 month supply, even or split market. And then anything over 6.5 up to, however many months it takes to sell it would be a buyer's market. The closer to 0, the more aggressive the seller's market. And so if you look at, let's do the math of where we were in 2017. And I've got, if I'm looking here, I got my calculator out. We did, our solds were 1,595 divided by 5,572 is a 28% absorption rate. 100 divided by 28 is a 3.5 month supply of inventory. So 2017,
Still a good year.
it was still great. It was still good. I mean, we were talking,
90
things
days.
were going well. 2017. I mean, you can see that within that trend, that was our typical flow pre-COVID. And if you can see 2018, kind of a very similar trend line. And yet a 3.57 month supply of inventory is still a seller's market. It's just, we are in an extremely aggressive seller's market here now.
And so ideally, if you scroll, so just keep it there, based on what we're seeing October, November, and December in the last, 5 years, we sold the most homes last year. And so if we continue along the trend we're currently at, we're still going to sell the most homes we've ever sold October, November, December, and it's still going to be a tight supply, and it's still going to be right around a month, unless of course new homes come into market that we're not anticipating.
Great aha, Brian. I mean, and if you really think about it, like everyone's like, well, what's the market going to do? Well, all we can do, we get a rearview mirror, not a crystal ball. But if we look historically, what happened last year was we had a bang in October.
Yeah.
It was great it was the sale. Like typically, we see a little bit, we don't slow down in October, but most realtors in the marketplace take the realtor holiday, which is basically October 1st to January 1st, and they don't do anything. And so, I mean, if we already have record low inventory and we get a lot of the realtor population who stops working, there's going to be a ton of market share available for us to go out there and go get between October, November, and December. That if you're hustling right now and you can get out there, get these listings, you're going to take that market share for sure. But I mean, I don't think we're not going to see some crazy bump in inventory. I don't see anything that would show that we would get some 1,000 home influx to put us even where we were last year. And last year was crazy. I mean, 2 years ago, we have it's like 2,400 homes fewer on the market right now than there were in 2019. It's crazy. Crazy to have. Cool. So that's Pinellas. Any questions on that? We're going to look at Hillsborough and Pasco. We'll look at them next. Thoughts, questions, emotional outbursts? Like, what? I don't know. How is this impacting your conversation with your clients right now?
Well, I think, like I have a listing that's coming and I thought we were going to meet this week and she's putting it off to November. In my mind, I'm like, oh, we don't want to wait till November. The market's hot right now. But looking at this, it's like, you really can't make a mistake right now. It's going to sell. It's priced right and it's marketed correctly and it's up, it's going to sell.
It's interesting. We could probably pit this against price adjustments. I don't know, somebody on your computer while you're doing this multitask, look at the price adjustments. How many homes that had price adjustments in the last week or 30 days or so as we're talking about this? Because I know we're seeing a lot of them. And yet it's I would like to think like, who is it that's getting these price adjustments? Because I would say of like the dozen or so listings that we've had in the last quarter that have been active, we've only had to do a price adjustment on one of them and everything else is selling at or above asking price. And so it's just interesting, like it is a skills-based market. So if you can really understand this and position it in such a way to help your clients make a great decision, it's going to sell quickly. You're right on, Brian. And if they got to wait, if there's some kind of condition, like I got a client right now who we met 3 months ago, but it's like in an estate and the lawyers are milking it for all it's worth. So it's taken forever to get this house to become available to sell. And they're like, oh, we're getting priced out of the market on our purchase. I'm like, well, keep in mind, all ships are rising with the tide right now. Your house that we met with in Safety Harbor, that's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath pool house that we met in, May, and it was worth 400. I don't know. You're going to find that. You're going to find a 4-3 pool house in Safety Harbor for 400 right now? I don't think you are. No way. I think we're maybe at 450. They didn't do anything. So that's something to keep in mind. So let's jump into the other macro numbers for the other 3 counties, and then we'll look at the micro numbers. We good on time, Tamara? Don't let me run over time. Okay. All right. So looking at Pasco, again, month over month, numbers have gone down. Inventory levels have gone down. We're at 1,445 homes that were on the market for sale in Pasco County. We're down year over year, down month over month. It's trending. It's going fewer inventory. Inventories are dropping. Which I don't know, has that been the theme pre-COVID? Not really, right? If you look at 2019, which is this navy blue line right here, it held pretty flat and then kind of dipped a bit in December. If we look at 2018, it held pretty flat, kind of went up a little bit. Inventory levels went up November, December. And then 2017, it held pretty flat. That's what the trend, that was the pre-COVID trend line. I mean, we may be in the midst of a whole new market trend. That in 5 years from now, they're going to be like, oh, what happens in December in the fourth quarter as inventory levels continue to drop? That wasn't always the way. Could be moving forward. I mean, this whole up down, it was never like that. It was always this swoop that went like this. Lots of inventory in January, February, and then it dove down throughout the year, and then it crept back up in the fourth quarter. That's always what it was since I was in real estate since 13. It's kind of how it had been. So then our sales Pasco up month over month to 1,350 homes sold in September, highest sales recorded in a September in Pasco County. Down slightly month over month, but if we look at the trends,
Up year over year.
or year over, well, month over month, down slightly,
year
and
over
then
year over.
you know, and year over year, we're up. I'm sorry, we're up. Let me back up. My apologies. We're up month over month, up year over year. How has the trend been? What did it usually do? Usually once we hit September, we kind of rode almost a level train through the fourth quarter. Wasn't a whole lot of turbulence. So we'll see what happens. I mean, again, I'm predicting the fourth quarter this year is going to be the fastest, best fourth quarter that I'm ever going to have, probably. That's what I'm predicting. And again, we do the absorption rate, 1350 divided by 1445, 93% absorption rate, same 1.08 month supply of inventory.
And Pasco is completely different than Pinellas. It's not even close to what it looks like. The best months in the history of Pasco have been this year.
Yeah. Well, you know what? The other thing that I think is happening in Pasco,
they're building more property out there.
They are. So all those new home communities, I think that didn't ever register here, are now in the resale market.
Right.
You know, and so, and yet, if you look at it, there's still, the inventory levels are super low. There's tons of new home communities out there, and that data doesn't hit here unless the builder puts it in. But the other thing about Pasco is, I think that, you know, there's a lot of areas of Pasco County that are getting more and more desirable for people to move to because they're getting priced out of Pinellas.
Right.
I mean, I'm looking at downtown Newport Richey right now as a huge investment opportunity for myself personally. I'm actively going to look at investment properties like along Main Street, anywhere if I can get to as close a proximity to down to Main Street in Newport Richey as I am to Dunedin, where I live. I live about a mile from Dunedin. I think that's the only, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure we got some people who live in Pasco. I don't. And yet really that's the only cultural hub of Pasco County. If you're thinking about, you know, shops, restaurants, nightlife, that isn't a drive-to destination. I think you got to go to Main Street, downtown Newport Richey. Am I wrong?
Hey man, you giving up Pasco's secrets, man. What are you doing, dude?
Hey,
come on, man. You trying to bring everybody over there, dude. I'm trying to get up I live near there. You letting everybody know.
Let me know if you got some shadow inventory that is a nice 3-2 block home, a couple blocks off Main Street. I'm your guy. I'm just telling you. I mean, I bought my house in 15 in Dunedin for $180,000. It's worth $4 1/4. I haven't done anything to it. That's what downtown.
Maybe you should.
What downtown.
Maybe it's time to redo the kitchen.
I already am. I'm adding a master suite, so it'll be worth $615, like my neighbor's house I sold down the street. Like, oh my goodness. So then let's look at Hillsborough. Inventory in Hillsborough dropped month over month and year over year. We're down to 2,749 homes that came on the market in Hillsborough County in September. Not came on the market, that were active, that were on the market. This isn't like just came on the market. They were on the market. So they could have been rollovers. They could have came on the market fresh and new. They could have came on the market and then expired. If it had a date that it was on market, then it shows here. Am I right there, Tamara? Am I talking that correctly? Yep, that's right. Yep. Okay, good. Yep, we're down to 2,749. And then sales, Hillsborough had a huge, big jump in sales. I mean, this is a rocket ship in September in Hillsborough County. Most of my business is not in Hillsborough. Who's got that businesses in Hillsborough? I got a couple listings out there. Who's doing the majority of their business in Hillsborough County that can then speak to what they're seeing last month?
None of us.
None of us. It's a rocket ship. It's going to the moon. So, I mean, that tells a story. So, I mean, if you think about it, it's always been October or August. So we always saw a hard push in August because of schools, right? I think. That's the only thing I could attest it to. School starts in August, so we usually have a big, and then it dips back down in September. I mean, look at, it's been pretty solid. And then, I mean, we've been rebuilding what a fourth quarter can look like in our markets over the last year, for sure. So we do the math. 2,682 divided by 2,749, 98% absorption rate. It's a 1.02 month supply of inventory. It's gotten more aggressive. If you look back the last 3 months, when I've been on this call and we do the math, we started getting into the 1.2, 1.4 month supply of inventory. We're like, okay, finally I can breathe. Well, guess what? The race started again. We're sprinting again. It's a fast market.
It's almost like it's different here than it is nationally, because in the national conversations, I'm constantly hearing about this softening of the market and the more price reductions that are happening.
Yeah, I'm hearing that too. Tampa Bay is a micro market, right? We got all these little microclimates.
Yeah, I also operate in the Northern Virginia market, the Arlington, DC, Alexandria, and we have markets that are down 9%.
Oh, wow.
There. So there's one little city that is up like 2% from last month, but the rest have seen a decline anywhere from 2 to 9%.
That's because all those folks are moving to Tampa Bay. Am I right, Margo?
I need them to call me.
I know, right? No, I mean,
sorry, are you saying sales price is down or total number of units is down?
Total number of units, and some sales prices are down. When I started, like the average home sale was about $850 in Arlington, Virginia, which is right there where we live. It's down now to $765.
wow.
So,
Really?
and that's been over a period of time. But the one area, Falls Church, Virginia, that's the one where the average home sale is $1 million. And these places are only about 30 minutes away from each other. That's the one with the largest jump in sales.
Interesting. So how do we interpret that? Like, what do we think that means?
We have a lot of high-end foreign investors coming in.
To Tampa Bay?
No, not to Tampa Bay,
To your area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're asking for Tampa Bay. What does that mean here?
Well, I mean, if we think about it, we think about what it means for our micro market, Tampa Bay, and then you're hearing the numbers, and confirmed by Margo about what's happening nationally. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? What does that mean to you? What are you thinking about when you hear that?
Well, if you're looking at the numbers, demand is kind of similar to where it was. It's up a bit, right? I mean, we're not selling a ton more homes than we were, but supply is down. And this demand is still there. The same demand is there, growing demand with a little supply. So that means the homes are going to sell.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good observation, I'd say, for sure. I mean, I also think what I'm looking at is there's a lot of people moving to our area. I mean, we got I just read what Florida got another seat in the House because of the census. We have 30,000 more people for each voting district or something of that nature in Florida. Yeah, something like that. Someone else hear that too? Confirm those numbers. Something like we're growing. I mean, when I hear Kurt say the megalopolis of we'll call it Torlando now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't doubt it.
But
People
the numbers
gotta go
aren't
somewhere.
But the numbers aren't showing that, right? Am I wrong? The numbers aren't showing this massive influx of people. It's just showing steady growth. It's like it's continual, right? It's not this.
Well, here's what. Okay,
The numbers are there. The numbers are there.
Here's what I think. If
360,000 people a year are moving to Florida.
If we had the inventory, we would see that sales volume blow through the chart.
Oh, you think so?
Oh yeah. We have 1,000 houses more than what we have right now come on the market. And I don't think it would, I think we would move to like a 2-month supply of inventory. It would not impact, I think it would all just sell. Because I think right now we're like, it's almost, I mean, I don't know what the economic term for this would be necessarily, but I think that it's in a scope right now where like, it's almost like, it's just everything that's coming on the market, it's going to sell. And it's just, we just need more inventory.
So do you think the rent is just inflated because it's only seasonal renters, because if they could buy, they would buy?
Maybe. I mean, I think there's a lot of demographic shifts that are happening as far as like income and where people can buy and where they're going to live is definitely changing. I think the rental market, I'm sure I'm not tapped into that. I'm sure I think I've read that rents have gone up like 40% or something like that in our area, something crazy.
Well, obviously Phil is now calling from a barn. I mean, he can't even
Phil no
afford it.
longer lives in a house. He's now living in a barn.
I'm renting my house out for $5,000. I moved to a barn. It's great.
I live in the shed behind my house now because it's cheaper. All right,
no
cool.
running water.
Well, I mean, this is all great stuff. I think that, I mean, I don't know if you're looking at the same thing, if you're thinking about it the same way I am, it just fourth quarter is going to be crazy. Let's jump into price class categories. So as we mentioned, I'll go back up to Pinellas here. So as I mentioned, we got a call from the luxury committee that they wanted to see we used to stop at $1 million and just be like $1 million and up. And I mean, and again, because our markets are moving so fast, let's dissect what's happening in the luxury market. And I kind of want to focus on that a little bit more than anything else right now, because it's kind of a new sector of the Mastermind group, is that luxury market and breaking it down a little bit more since it's kind of new here. And so what we did was, and we're going to continue to do this, we break down the price class categories. And probably what we'll end up doing is just like removing the 29,000 and under and the 30,000 to 40,000. Like that's not really, I mean, it's such a small percentage of our market. I'm probably just it'll be like 0 to 50,000. And that way, you know, you can read it in 10-point font instead of 8-point font. And so, but really the markets have shifted from what I have seen. It used to be the meat of our market was that 200 to 400 range. And that was probably 2000, well, since I went in 13 until about 2017, it's now shifted based on these numbers where the 400 to 500 is now surpassed the 200 to 250. So now our new meat of the market is this range right here. Most of the homes that are for sale are right there. And then most of them that sell are right there as well in that range. And so because of that, like the tide is rising, the prices are going up, average prices are going up, which means the new home markets, the new home buyer, first time home buyer is no longer buying in the 150 to 200 range. They're now in the 180 to 250 range is the first time home buyer market now, which we see that with the FHA loan limits going up. But let's break down the what's happening in the luxury world. And so I use this for my clients in making sure that I can show them what's happening in each price class category. And so you can do that same absorption rate for other price class categories. So let's go ahead and look at that. First is something in the meat of our market, and then we'll go into the luxury market to see how that matches. So let's just look at the 300 to 400 range. Whoa, hey, which is, come on, 3 to 400. We saw 424 homes sell. Everyone seeing that with me? 324 sales. And if you're following along with me with your calculator, it'll be 424 sales divided by 464 active, which is 91%. 100, that's our absorption rate, divided by 91 gives us what?
1.09.
1.09. So right at the market. So that's still equally as fast as every other sector of the market. So 1.09 month supply of inventory. So then let's look at that in the luxury market. And so, and again, I broke this down in $500,000 increments so we can kind of see what this looks like. So we got $1 million to $1.5 million, 53 sales divided by 68 actives. About at 7.779, so let's say a 78%. That is a 1.28 month supply of inventory. Still extremely aggressive seller's market. I then ran that for the next category up. I was like, well, you know, where's the change? We got 1.5 million to 1.999. We had 21 sales divided by 32 actives, 65% absorption rate, a 1.5 month supply of inventory, still extremely aggressive. And then really after that, it goes up. We then have the 2 to 2.5, 13 sales in that price class category, 10 on the market, 130% absorption rate. That is a 3-week supply of inventory. Your luxury market is equally as fast. It's lightning speed in the luxury market. Once we get past that, the data is cloudy because there's not enough real data to start to formulate true absorption rates. But if we look at it, 4 sales above that, 5 active, I mean, they're all selling. Everything is, it's all selling. Back in the day, I mean, even back in 2017, if I pulled these numbers, I mean, it would have been, you know, an 8 or 9, 10-month supply of inventory in this market. Phil, can your team attest to that? You guys do a lot in that luxury world.
Yeah, absolutely can agree. Even go back a year, and it was an incredibly different story. You know, these price points were 12, 15 months on the market, and now it's, if you get it, you can sell it, which is just crazy.
Where's this market coming from? Where are these buyers coming from?
All over. Well, that's
are
not
they
true.
Homegrown?
Not all over. It's all over the U.S. Not as many internationals as what was propping up that market before.
Interesting.
It's the same places though as everyone else is moving from, right? It's the New York, the California, those markets. Yep.
That DC market, we see a lot of people moving down from there. I also had I had a couple clients that sold, 4 years ago in the 400 to 500 range, and now they're buying in the 1.5. I mean, that's the common step up now. And I mean, and talk about educating your buyer, it's taken some hard clubbing over the head to let them know that they are not in a soft market in 1.5. Like, they cannot do the research that they thought they could. They don't have these houses are selling in days, if they're priced right. And so this is Pasco. So if we look at Pasco, quite a bit different on the Pasco market. As you can see, there's just not as many high-end homes in that Pasco market, in that range. The active, 9 for sale, 2 for sale, 2 for sale. There's only, if you look at that, just above $1 million, there's not a lot of inventory. And then in Pasco, and then again, the sales volume, there's not a lot of data in Pasco for the $1 million+ market. It just doesn't really exist.
Can I give 2 other just miscellaneous thoughts?
Yeah.
So yes, yes, my team does luxury sales. In fact, Linda sends her apologies. She's stuck late at a $1.4 million closing right now. And so sadly you got bumped because she's trying to make sure that closes.
No judgment.
However, yes, we do the sales, but we also watch these numbers to try to figure out what the market's doing. You know, if it's softening here, we'll probably see it in these numbers first. So even if you don't sell in these numbers, you still have to watch these numbers to know what, you know, what's coming, what's going on.
I love that, Phil. So thanks for sharing. You say, like, if we see the luxury market on fire, you better believe everything else is white hot heat. If the luxury market's white hot.
And the reverse, if it starts turning, it's probably a matter of time till other things start turning.
Right. Yeah. The thermostat. Interesting. And so then let's look at Hillsborough, and the Hillsborough has about the most data when it comes to the luxury market. I think there's more millionaires in Tampa than anywhere else. I think in the state is what I've read. And so we've got in the $1 million to $1.5 million. Where's my numbers here? There were 38 that sold, 44 on the market. Again, 86% absorption rate, 1.16 month supply of inventory. It softens a hair as we get into the 1.5 to 2 range. 1.5 to 2, there was 11 sales. With 26, that was a 42%, so a 2.3 month supply of inventory. In that range, still seller's market. I mean, we would have never seen a 2 month supply of inventory in the 1.5 to $2 million range in Tampa Bay at any point pre-COVID ever. And then it goes even hotter once we get up above. So 2 to 2.5, there's 12 that had sold, 10 that were active, 102%, less than a month supply of inventory. I ran it for the next 2 ones, a 1 month supply of inventory in the 2.5 to 3. And then the 3 to 3.5 was a 1.1 month supply of inventory until it's, you know, the numbers are just, there's such little data. It doesn't make sense to even do the math. You can just do it in your head right then. So what are your thoughts? I mean, Phil, that really, like, I love that you said that, because that, it really is that thermostat. You see the luxury market starting to make moves right now. That's going to be an indicator for the rest of the market. What else are your thoughts? What are you thinking when you hear that? I'm going to stop screen sharing here, maybe. Yeah. So what are your thoughts when you see those numbers and you're looking at that? What are you thinking?
Pretty crazy.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Well, it's just exciting to see all those numbers, all those properties move so quickly. It's just, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is that, you know, going into this month's numbers, I thought we were going to see a slowing of the market, and what we're seeing, and what, you know, if you look over towards the fourth quarter, is just an exceptionally fast market that we're in now, and it's going to continue to stay that way, no matter what price point we're in.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that seems to be, I mean, we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what's going to happen, but I mean, we're going to keep tracking these numbers. The signs are not, you know, it shows, I think it's a one-way street here, and we're going to keep being aggressive. I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. I don't know. Does anyone else have a perspective? I mean, that's just perception, but any other perspectives that might lend a different opinion?
I don't know that it's different, Jake. But having been in the business 30 years, I know it's a cyclic business. It goes through cycles. But I have to say that this data does not show that we are in any sort of cycle that's going to change from a seller's market anytime soon.
Mm. Yeah,
I just don't see it.
Yeah, no, I second that, Jan, for sure.
But
Cool.
it could change to 2 months of inventory, 3 months of inventory, which is still great for our sellers.
Right. Well, you know, and what Kurt, you mentioned before, like fourth quarter, they're projecting another double-digit appreciation quarter.
Yep.
If we get another double-digit appreciation quarter, we might see 40% of appreciation in Tampa Bay this year. Because we had first quarter, I mean, they'll tell it. I mean, I haven't heard anybody say, oh, the third quarter was this percentage appreciation, but I'll bet you it's a double digit. And that'll be 3 quarters in a row of double digit appreciation. It's going to be, it's going to be blazing fast. It's going to be super fast. Get out there and get your fair share. I got 10 more minutes. I wanted to show everyone how I get these numbers so that you can pull these for yourself. And so I'm going to share my screen again. Any other questions, thoughts?
Real fast while you're pulling that up. Also watch your $500,000 to $700,000 price points. We're seeing, as prices go up, that's where sales are happening. There's growth in that area. That used to be luxury, and now it's not.
No.
And so it's a great time to increase your price point. You almost have to be increasing your price point in today's market.
There's nothing luxurious about $700,000 sale. I mean, nothing.
Right?
Nothing. I mean, it is so boring and bland. God.
Yeah, just wait 2 months and we'll list it for $1 million. No worries. Yeah, Phil, good point.
I just have a thought while you're pulling that up, being that I grew up in Massachusetts and Florida's always been my second home. I have a lot of buyers from New Jersey, New York, Massachusetts, and it used to be you could just buy a cheap house in Florida. And I always get a chuckle when people think that's still the case. And they call and they want the world for, 300. And I'm like, no, you need to have 650, 700 for that.
Yep.
So I get a lot of buyers in the 650 range to over $1 million coming from up north.
Mm-hmm. Or they say, hey, show me a foreclosure. I'm like, for what?
Oh yeah. I'm like, nah, there aren't any.
What a high five. Get more of those than foreclosures.
And if there are, you're not getting them from New Jersey, believe me.
Yeah, you better go to the tax roll and buy it straight off the steps, and then hopefully you can clear the title. All right, let me pull up the MLS here. Okay, everyone see the matrix? I got matrix up on my screen. Did that work?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, cool. All right, so here's how we pull the numbers, everybody. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the MLS. We get it right from the MLS. You can pull this on November 1st. You can get all these numbers if you want to do this. Go to search, click on detail. It's going to pull this up. Remove the active checkbox here. Scroll down to add remove fields, and then move over on market date. So you're going to find it over here in the O's. There it is, on market date. Move that over. It was already there, I know. And then go back. And so what I'm going to then do is I'm going to select the calendar. And I'm going to go back in time 1 month to September 1st to September 30th. And that's everything that had an on market date in that time frame. And then I'm going to put in my county of choice. Pinellas. 2,227. Those are the houses that had an on-market date of that day. They were on the market that day. I could do Dunedin. Oh, it didn't work. I spelled it wrong. So you could do this for cities. There's 84 on market in Dunedin. So you can really refine this to the city or even the neighborhood you want to work in. So that's how we find the on-market date. Super simple. If you wanted to buy price class, you just put it in here and you can put in the price class category. If you uncheck the hundreds box, that's where then you can put in your price class category for the hundreds. Any questions on how we find the on-market active inventory to get that number for the sheet? Pretty simple. All right, so I'm going to refresh my screen for a detailed search. I'm going to remove the active. I'm going to click on the sold. Then I'm going to click on the same calendar. I'm going to go back in time. 88 gigawatts. Flux capacitor, back in time. Go to September 1st through the 30th. That's everything that's sold during that time frame. Select my county of choice. Pinellas. 2,064 sold. That's what we're doing to get these numbers. You'll notice on the sheet that that's slightly different. When we pull the numbers, it shows 2,061. So somebody out there told the multiple listing service that they actually did sell a house in September. And so it updated. But what we have found is after the 7th, it doesn't fluctuate too much. If we're talking 1 or 2 houses, 3 houses, it's, the numbers, the change doesn't make it as much of a difference. And again, you can do the price class categories there. Any questions on that or comments? Anyone want me to talk about that more, or where you're like, what did you just do, Jake? I don't have no idea what you just did right there. Any questions or thoughts on that?
Can you do the first part of that again?
Yeah.
Not the sold, but the one you did before that, just real
Yeah.
quick, the beginning of it.
Sure thing. So I'm going to go to hover over search, go to detailed search. The reason I do detailed search is because it gives me the option. Again, I'm going to uncheck, no check boxes over here. Uncheck everything. And then it gives you the option to do this, add additional fields. If you do the quick search, it won't give you the add additional fields, I don't think. So then you're going to click on add remove. And you're going to move over the on market date selected field. As you can see, you can really do a lot of customized searches in the MLS. Not an MLS class today here, folks. However, that will then pull over on market date, and you'll find that in the O's. You got on market, off market. Here's on market. That's the one we want. Add it over. And then you go back. So now you can see it here down at the bottom in the additional fields. When you click on it, I'm going to go back in time and select my dates. And again, so you can pull this. What I found was the MLS isn't tracking past a year right now. So if you try to look back in time too far, it'll just be they wash it out. They dump it. So that's why we're pulling it on the regular basis. And then select your county. Hillsborough, 2,000, and then you can see it right over here, 2,759. That's still true. Yep, looks like 10 more they said were on the market. And again, that fluctuates because people can manually input that information there. You're doing like a screenshot there? Is that what's going on? All right, so then and then to do the solds again, I'm gonna refresh it. You want to get that out of there because I just want to see what's sold. It might have been, I want to get out that on market and then I'll put in the solds. Does that answer your question or clarify for you?
Yes. Yes,
Cool.
It does. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. What else you got? Tell me something that you heard. We got 3 more minutes. Let me hear an aha from today. If you haven't shared yet, what did you hear? If this was your first time or your first day, whatever, share something that you saw today that's going to impact that this was worth your time to come on out and hang out with us for a little while.
This was definitely great for me as a new agent, man. I'm learning, trying to learn the trends. I'm not a numbers guy as well. So, listening to this is really, insightful for me. I'm looking to use some of this stuff to start doing maybe a Friday lecture for my page, for my people, my sphere, and create some content using some of this information. So I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I just shot a video today for my database based on this information. Quick 1 minute video, 1 2 minute video, quick market update, just to create content. That's great. Thanks for that, Lewis. Cool. One more. Let's hear one more hot from today. What did you hear today? And you're like, man, this was great. Thank you. What'd you hear?
I found absorption rate most interesting and having that as an indicator as to if it's more of a seller's market or a buyer's market. That's my biggest takeaway.
Alexis, thanks for sharing. Yeah. That was before I got into real estate. I did not know any of this or have any idea of any of this information. So I'm glad that we can get that out there for you. So next month, what are we, November 19th? Tamara?
Yes, Friday, November 19. Jake and Gary will be
Yay,
back.
Gary's back.
Yes, and I believe it's also going to be, 1:30 to 3:30, that one, because we're going to
Cool.
have Gary and Jake.
Awesome. Yeah. So if you haven't been on with Gary before, I mean, he is one of the smartest, most giving people that I know. I mean, this is where all these numbers, this is where this mastermind came from. So make sure you're on next month with Gary. I so appreciate your time. Hopefully this was worth it for you, and got out there, and because it's going to get, this fourth quarter is going to be a lot of business. Go out there and go get it. These other realtors are taking vacations. Appreciate you. All right. Have a good day. Thank you, Margot.
You too. Thanks for your time, Jake.
Yeah, my
Have a great
pleasure.
day.
Michelle. Thanks for
Thanks,
being
Jake.
on. Yeah, my pleasure. All right, guys. Have a good day.